Okay, so what came first, the chicken or the egg? What came first, the Cold Steel SRK or the Falkneven A1? That's gonna be the topic of the video, and another chance to talk about our favorite tools, knives, and some of the better designs ever made, especially in the more modern times. As always, if you want to learn more about survival and preparedness, that's what the channel is for. You have a ton of information already, and you have my books, very important these days with everything going on. So survival skills, where I talk quite a bit about EDC, knives, and a bunch of other things, and surviving the economic collapse. You want to get these in Amazon, following the links below. You have the French version for my European buddies that want to get prepared, giving everything going on. You have the French version of that book as well. And if you have the English, Spanish, and French, use whatever works best for you in trying times like these current ones, to get prepared for an uncertain future and already complex enough present. So, SRK. I remember walking into a gun store back in the days of yarn in Argentina, in my little neck of the woods, or my little neck of Buenos Aires. Not many woods in the city of Buenos Aires, but I remember walking to a gun store and seeing this knife, and it was on display, and they were just importing these Cold Steel knives, very badass, cool looking knives. And I saw this one, and I thought, that's an interesting knife. Even at a young age, I had an idea of what I liked and what I did not like, and I will say I had a pretty exquisite taste in knives. I knew what I liked. I could not always afford what I liked, but I knew what I liked. Now in this case, I liked that knife so much that I pony up the money and got it. As you see, unused. Why? Because it was super expensive, and I just couldn't use it. I mean, it was something. The first SRK. No, this was not the first one. Even though the leather sheath, I was just looking. This is from 1998, back in the day in which these were made in good old USA. Yeah, bringing production back to America, not Taiwan, people. America first. Oh, God damn it. Come on. I was so inspired. There you go. There you go. Made in USA. Carbon 5. Cold steel. Hell no, I'm not going to use this thing. It's a collectible now. I'm glad I didn't use it, right? But the thing is this. There's some people out there that think that these stinking Europeans always come up with everything, and that's not always the case. No. Those freeloading assholes always stealing the best ideas from America. That's actually the case here. In this case, it was the Europeans that stole the design from... No one stole anything. I'm just joking. I'm just having a laugh here. So the SRK, this is very much true. I did see this as a young man with very little money, and I fell in love with the design. I thought it was superb, which it is. Obviously, I was not wrong. It was a civilian knife. The SRK from Cold Steel, it was a civilian knife for the civilian market, was very well received, and then it went to become super popular in the military as well. So if you were a soldier, a young soldier, and you had a little bit more money, instead of using whatever crap they gave you, that M9 bayonet thing, you went with an SRK. You were making a good call there. And eventually, as time went by, even buds, the Navy SEAL training dudes, they are issued now on SRK, which I think is a good idea because it's a great knife. Now, did Cold Steel invent anything super special? I would like to know more of his story, who was actually the designer of this. But at the end of the day, what is this? It's a medium-sized knife with a clip point. Just very well made, right? And designed in a beautiful fashion. But it's basically that. If you want to have any inspiration for this, you probably have to look at this other knife, a well-known knife as well, the good old K-bar. This is actually an actual USMC K-bar marked knife from the World War II era. So yeah, precious to me knife, one of my most valuable knives in my collection, I guess it is. Yeah, these are not exactly cheap, but I like this. It's still freaking sharp. Did I touch this up? I probably got stupid at some point. No, it came already pretty sharp as I got it. Then I maybe touched it up just a tad. You don't do that. You just leave these things as they are. But it was so tempting because it was so close. It was just touching it up. No, I didn't do anything stupid. Just touching it up with a ceramic rod was all it needed. Just, it seemed like it was not honoring the knife to not have it sharp. K-bar should be sharp, right? Yeah, if you have something like this, you probably want to leave it as it is, which I do, and I have the original sheath for it, and also. But my point is, this is, you know, the knife that inspires all knives. The K-bar is the most famous knife in the world, but the K-bar itself was nothing special or original. I mean, it is special now because of the historic context and a lot of other things, but it's not as if it's particularly tough, right? The rat tail tang is famously its weak points, but the blade geometry, that was its biggest asset. And it is unlike so many other knives because it's inspired by the knives that soldiers were buying themselves from sporting goods places, you know, from hunting stores and outdoor stores that were selling hunting knives from the civilian market. So what they noticed was that many of these soldiers were buying knives. Don't remember the manufacturers, but there was a couple of manufacturers there making, a couple of brands making knives, hunting knives and outdoors knives. Then these were the ones being bought, and some of the ones that were liked the most by the soldiers. And they went like, hell yeah! I mean, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Let's just do our own version of a Bowie clip point hunting knife, and that's going to be our knife. That's going to be our USMC fighting utility knife. So this, from the civilian market turned military, inspired this that went to the civilian market and then ends up in the hands of the military. And this is what a certain company in Sweden, having knives manufacturers in Japan, after winning a contract for its Swedish army for their survival knives for their pilots, the F1, is it? Right, the F1. And later being successful with that, they start making other knives, and they obviously saw that this was a very clever design, this was a very good design, and they said, what hell, we'll just copy it. It's basically that. I mean, in terms of pretty much everything. I will say that even though they probably did copy the SRK. They saw the SRK, they liked it, they tested it, they saw it was a well-designed knife, and they made their own version. They made their own version, which is arguably better than the SRK. So the Fogniven A1, made not in Europe but in Japan by a European company, is arguably better. Well, I don't think there's much of an argue, is it? It's I mean, the tang is very thick, goes all the way through. I do think this is a better design. It's going to be tougher, right? It goes all the way through here, and you can hammer away with this thing. That's always nice. I don't know how frequently you use it, but if you have to in a survival knife, yeah, you can bash the living crap out of it, and that's what it's there for. So that's already good. Then it's very similar. I mean, the handle is probably a tad better in the A1, given that you have a little bit of a belly there, and that's nicer for holding and whatnot. So yeah, a little bit better, and definitely better steel. And I like that I don't have much of this bullshit, you know, thing. What's the name of this? Anyway, you know the name of this? The name of this is not knife, right? And this is a tiny little choil, or actually more of a Spanish notch, mostly for sharpening, which is as far as I will go. I would rather have this go all the way down there, but of course, because of the way in which these things are made, not possible. So yeah, we just accept that for what it is, but minimizing the Spanish notch as much as they can. That's a clever design. If I had to make my own SRK, this is what I would have done. I would have done the exact same thing these guys did, and I would actually bust everyone's balls to see if we can get that edge down there to zero, to everything cutting in my knife. This is probably going to cut just as well, and it's true that for sharpening it's going to be a little bit easier. So yeah, the A1 is the better SRK. The steel is laminated VG10, supposedly tougher. I really don't believe that for a second. Laminated steel tends to fall apart when you start breaking it. Do you have to break it? No. I mean, you can use this knife. You can use this knife a heck of a lot. You can bash, hammer with it. You know, you have a partner specifically for hammering, so try not to mess it up. But yeah, it's very good steel. It's going to be better than the carbon 5 steel here. And now they have the there's a 3V version now, so 3V sounds cool. But laminated VG10, that's not bad. And I like that stainless steel. Stainless steel is always a big plus. I don't like the epoxy crap. So I would rather go with stainless steel. The other thing, and you see that this was very well made. This US made, made in USA SRK, fuck, these were nice, man. Super accurate, check that out. I don't know if you get to appreciate that, but it looks so dark. It's like so freaking beautiful, but perfectly machined. You see that? Yeah, you do, of course. You see that shit? You don't see this very often these days. That is basically the epoxy paint. Other than that, it's perfectly machined and grind on the sides. Just a beautiful knife. Wonderful knife. This is very much that and then some, right? This is a fantastic knife too. I don't know if you have that. Well, yeah, it's pretty well done, this one as well. Great knives. This one is better though because of not only the steel, I like the stainless steel better. It's also a convex edge, right? The convex edge, this apple seed thing where you have a knife where basically you have more steel behind the edge. So your SRK is going to be a flat grind with a convex edge, right, instead of the hollow grind. So you basically have three types of grind. You have the flat grind, which is going to be a belt. You go bzz, bzz on each side. Flat grind, very popular, very good, and great for woodworking and carving and whatnot. Then you have the hollow grind, which is in the olden days when you had a wheel, you just did a hollow grind with a wheel on one side, on the other, and this has the advantage of having a very thin edge, and it's nice to keep a very thin edge. And then you have the convex grind, which is basically with a belt that deforms a little bit of a give, and there you just work on each side until you have that apple seed shape. And what you have in axis and so on. And the advantage here is it's going to be very sharp, but also it's going to give it a lot of metal behind the edge. So the amount of metal that you have behind the edge, this is the most amount of metal that you have behind the edge as you move towards the other end of the blade. This is the least amount of metal that you have behind the edge. So this is going to be a little bit less strength for punishing that edge, and this is going to be the point in between, and that's why it's so popular, the flat grind, which I think is great. Flat grind is fine. Now, this will not compensate for lack of proper heat treatment or a different kind of metal, especially heat treatment. That's where mostly this goes down to. Mostly, it's going to be about the heat treatment, but a poor heat treatment will fail no matter what grind you have, especially when it comes down to chipping and breaking apart. And yes, it is true that with a knife that is designed to cut, and you have a premium steel, that premium steel may not take punishment as well as some of the cheaper steels. Why? Because the premium steel is going to prioritize edge retention. Why edge retention? Because it's a fucking knife intended for cutting. And better edge retention means you can cut more until you need to resharpen. And for people that are more into knives and into sharpened pry bars, that's a thing. That's a priority. I think that, yeah, no doubt, this is going to take a lot more until you need to sharpen it again. This will not hold as much. But yeah, you have options. You have a great knife in the A1, and you have a fantastic knife in the SRK. Honestly, go with the SRK. Go with a stainless steel SRK. You probably don't need the finesse of the A1. And for what, $50 and $200, 200 something bucks? Yeah, those are, I think it's a no-brainer. Go with the SRK in whatever stainless steel they happen to be making it. It's going to be made in China or Taiwan, no longer in America, which was awesome back when it was. But yeah, that's something I would strongly recommend. Hey, by the way, you can also, if you prefer something a little bit more my way of doing things, that's my survival knife, the Aitor Ferfal. You will have the links for all of these there below. Now, the Ferfal has the hated hollow grind, but yeah, this is better steel than any of these two assholes right here, and it takes a damn beating like a champ. I've tested this thing, I know what it can do, and it is a freaking awesome beast. But you see the difference there? That's hollow grind, and yet super tough, super durable. Yeah. Anyway, you have the links there below for the knives. Pick whatever you find you like better or adjust best to your budget. See you on the next video, guys. Take care. Have a good one.